Buenos días a todos. Good morning. Es un placer y un honor estar hoy aquí con colegas, amigos y otros profesionales que de momento no conozco, pero que espero poder ir compartiendo momentos con todos vosotros durante el día. Agradezco especialmente a Ricard Pié y a Carlos Rosa que me hayan facilitado esta oportunidad de poder estar aquí en esta conferencia que sin duda alguna tiene o plantea grandes expectativas que tienen que ver con su intenso programa académico, pero también con sus posibilidades de acción entre todos nosotros y también, como se ha visto ahora en la presentación, relacionado con la posibilidad de aprender directamente sobre el territorio con esta actividad del próximo sábado. Pero ahora estoy aquí no para lo que estoy haciendo, estoy aquí para presentar a Dean MacCannell. Cuando, se lo comentaba esta mañana a Ricard, cuando me propusieron hacer esta presentación, me pregunté, ¿es necesario presentar a Dean MacCannell? Porque, bien, creo que es una persona que nos ha, bueno, él personalmente no, pero su obra seguramente ha acompañado básicamente a cualquier investigador, a cualquier pensador, a cualquier persona interesada en lo que significa el turismo en nuestra sociedad contemporánea, moderna, si tomamos la palabra que utiliza él en The Tourist, su primer libro sobre turismo, durante toda nuestra vida académica. Con lo cual, bueno, esta pregunta, ya que me lo han pedido, lo voy a presentar, o voy por lo menos a intentar decir algunas cositas de mi relación intelectual con él, básicamente, o con su obra, no tanto con él directamente, porque hasta hoy no he tenido el placer de conocerlo, pero dos elementos relacionados con su valor inspirador, si puede decirse así, en términos académicos y en términos de pensamiento. Lo primero tiene que ver con mi selección de lecturas para mis estudiantes cuando les doy clase directamente. Y una selección, de hecho, en una asignatura que tiene que ver, que desarrollaba hace aproximadamente 10 años, una asignatura que se titulaba algo así como Factores de innovación en la evolución, en el desarrollo de equipamientos de ocio. Y a pesar de hablar de innovación, me gustaba ir a un clásico para entender, un clásico del año 76, una asignatura que daba en 2008-2009, el año 76, para entender qué significaba esto de la innovación. La lectura obligada que les daba a mis estudiantes era el capítulo 6 de su libro El turista, la nueva teoría de la clase ociosa, un título que a mí siempre me ha gustado mucho porque se relaciona directamente con el famoso libro de Veblen sobre la teoría de la clase ociosa, y a mí es algo que me resultaba también inspirador, pero a lo que iba este capítulo 6, que se titulaba Una semiótica de la atracción. Los estudiantes, tengo que reconocerlo, Dean, lo primero que me decían que era complicado de leer, es decir, que no era una lectura inmediata, sino que había que reflexionar, que había que entrar directamente en el texto, ¿no? Porque esto de entender las atracciones turísticas como signos que eran útiles para la comprensión de la cultura moderna era algo que no es aprehensible en primer lugar. Pero de hecho, cuando entraban en la lectura, cuando discutíamos esta lectura en clase, cuando empezábamos a entender todos las diferencias entre el marcador y la vista, entre el significante y el significado, cuando observábamos el papel que juega la arbitrariedad en la relación entre este significado y este significante, y estoy yendo a una obra, diríamos, ya de hace tiempo del propio Dean, entonces los estudiantes entraban en una situación, voy a decirlo así, de fascinación. Pasaban de la dificultad inicial a la fascinación por esta idea que él desarrolla de manera intensa de entender que cualquier diferencia, voy a decirlo en sus palabras, entre significado y significante es el resultado de la superposición de un sistema de valores sociales. Esto parece una frase también muy densa en cuanto a su contenido, tiene mucho que ver precisamente con esta necesidad de comprender las atracciones, de comprender también el paisaje como atracción, como algo que es fundamental, que puede ser fundamentalmente entendido desde la perspectiva precisamente del papel que juega el turismo, no ya desde el punto de vista de desarrollo social, ambiental, etcétera, sino desde el punto de vista de la propia introspección y deseos personales. Y esto era algo que vinculaba al turismo de manera muy clara con esta, y esto porque lo hacía, ¿no?, con esta idea de innovación. Es decir, tenemos que innovar, tenemos que entender para qué lo hacemos y de dónde partimos, también desde una perspectiva personal. No quiero extenderme mucho, pero sí que quiero plantear un segundo encuentro ha habido más, pero un segundo momento reciente en este caso, en la lectura de Veblen, de MacCannell y en su papel en mi reflexión. En este caso tiene que ver con algo que estoy haciendo ahora mismo, que es preparar la segunda edición de un libro que escribí en el año 2007, The Global Theme Park Industry, que es un libro relacionado con el desarrollo de atracciones, de iconos de atracciones, en este caso, inicialmente uno puede pensar solamente comerciales, pero diríamos va más allá de esta idea, ¿no? Y que se relaciona muy claramente con lo que acabo de decir ahora de MacCannell, ¿no? Estamos hablando de una actividad, esta de la visita de atracciones, que mueve anualmente unos 1.000 millones de personas al año, estamos hablando de 1 billón de personas, y que puede entenderse también como un signo de la cultura popular, de la cultura pop contemporánea, ¿no? La necesidad de comprender esto, de por qué esto ocurre, la necesidad de comprender la relación entre la atracción y esto que acabamos de decir, y el papel que juega en las propias preferencias de ocio de una parte de la sociedad contemporánea, pues está en el fondo del desarrollo de este libro. Ahora, al hablar, estoy preparando una segunda edición, al hablar de esto es necesario, han pasado cosas desde 2007, es necesario, intento entender hacia dónde van la multiplicación de las geografías de las atracciones, hacia dónde van las diversificaciones de conceptos en relación a las atracciones, etc. Pero más allá de hablar de lo que me estoy planteando, quiero decir, intentando leer, intentando bucear acerca de este tipo de cosas, descubro, lo digo así, entre comillas, porque de hecho no es un descubrimiento, porque esto está en las webs, está en las bibliotecas, la tercera pieza, vamos a decirlo así, de la trilogía turística de Dean MacCannell, su obra publicada en 2011 por parte de la Universidad de California Press, The Ethics of Sightseeing, una obra que junto con Empty Meeting Grounds probablemente son las tres piezas, diríamos, los tres elementos de la trilogía turística, porque habla de otras cosas de Dean MacCannell, ¿no? Y veo que en esta pieza, además en este libro tiene un capítulo para mí interesante que se titula An Imaginary Symbolic from Piranesi to Disney. Es decir, vamos a ver qué hay aquí, ¿no? ¿Cómo me va a inspirar de nuevo Dean MacCannell en relación a esta cuestión? Y me encuentro con cosas interesantes, pero sobre todo, y no voy a ir directamente a este elemento, sino sobre todo me encuentro en el por qué Dean MacCannell intenta trabajar estas cosas. Y lo encuentro no tanto en el capítulo, sino en la introducción, cuando dice que su objetivo es explorar, y lo cito directamente, las diferencias en las maneras como los turistas ven y experimentan o experiencian las atracciones independientemente de lo muy o poco ricos que sean o independientemente de su background, de su origen étnico o independientemente de su género. Le interesa a él cuando habla de sightseeing y de esta manera justifica, diríamos, los diferentes elementos entre los cuales esta análisis entre Piranesi y Disney sus planteamientos, la necesidad de estudiar la responsabilidad que tomamos o no tomamos en nuestras elecciones cuando miramos, en nuestras elecciones cuando asimilamos de manera subjetiva la experiencia turística. Dice él que el sightseeing es una de las más íntimas, individuales y maneras efectivas para intentar arañar, intentar dar sentido a nuestro lugar en el mundo. Y esto tiene que ver con todo tipo de elementos en los cuales nos relacionamos cuando estamos mirando, desde aquello que está diseñado directamente para ser mirado, y aquí es la conexión con mis intereses, lo que está diseñado específicamente para ser mirado, pero también otras cosas que no han sido diseñadas para ser miradas y a pesar de ello lo son. Y aquí hay un elemento ético que hay que reflexionar sobre él en la medida que los turistas, cuando hacemos, y me incluyo en esta acción, cuando hacemos esta relación con aquello que miramos, lo que tenemos que ver es si lo que estamos haciendo es realizar, diríamos, el máximo potencial de aquello que somos mientras viajamos, o simplemente lo que hacemos es dar una excusa a aquellos que construyen cosas directamente para nosotros. Y estas son cosas que MacCannell, que hoy está aquí, me plantea, lo hablo así directamente, en sus escritos, que sin duda alguna, como decía antes, generan inspiración y sin duda alguna, más allá de las escuelas de pensamiento, más allá de las etiquetas de si está en esta escuela, en esta tendencia o en esta otra, generan pensamiento y generan, por lo tanto, capacidad para poder también nosotros pensar. Me quedo para acabar en esta breve presentación, que quizá la estoy alargando demasiado, pero intentaba decir algo más que repasar su currículum, que bueno, es bastante conocido y además la tienen ustedes en la presentación. Me quedo para acabar simplemente y en relación con otra cita precisamente de este último libro que tiene mucho que ver con lo que estamos haciendo aquí y espero que tenga algo que ver con lo que él va a hablar. Dice algo así como seamos conscientes que cada paisaje contiene memoria. Cada pulgada cuadrada, él dice square inch, de suelo que caminamos es sagrado. Gracias, Dean. The floor is yours.
Thank you for that too kind introduction. First, let me apologize for speaking to you in English. I'm very sorry, but I am not as sorry as you would be if I tried to speak to you in Spanish. Thank you for inviting me to this wonderful conference. I'm especially impressed by the fact that you've managed to bring together the university, the city, and the industry. I think that that tourism is too important a part of human heritage to be left to just one institution, and to find them the proper set of institutions cooperating together to try to comprehend it is it's very touching to me personally. So thank you for the organization of this and all the work that I know went into it. In 1993, I transferred my University of California appointment from the social science faculty to environmental design and landscape architecture. This is because I wanted to work with colleagues who were taking a more active role in creating and shaping the world around us. My new colleagues welcomed me, and they reassured me that they would not ask me to teach plant selection, soil science, grading and drainage, construction materials and documentation, pollution mitigation, or habitat fragmentation. They did ask me to create and teach an advanced studio course, and they asked me for a statement of my landscape philosophy. In fairness, they didn't just ask me for a philosophical statement on my arrival. This demand was self-imposed on all the senior faculty. I was reminded of the need for a philosophical level of understanding of when the organizers of this conference asked me why tourists are beginning to flow into formerly industrial cities that have few monuments or historic attractions. What changed in the old industrial city to make it into an attraction? Is it true that in postmodernity, anything can be an attraction? Is this inevitably a prelude to the thematization and gentrification that will eventually turn every neighborhood into a place of no place? Is what happened to some of your coastal areas about ready to happen to your entire country? And it might. Especially if the ways that capitalism warps tourism is allowed to prevail. But there are grounds for hope. The fit between capital and tourism has never been a good one. The economic models of late capitalism cannot be mapped point for point onto tourist desire. Big capital prefers tourists to be prepackaged and the attractions to be artificially constructed and walled in like theme parks. This is Toontown at Disneyland in Anaheim. And it's not just in the Disney parks, it's almost everywhere. This is Italia in miniatura. The capital tries to shape and direct tourist desire into money-making schemes by appealing to the tourist ego and its insecurities. This is the text of this Hyatt ad. Every now and then it happens, a little extra time on your hands and a whole city at your feet. Not to worry, not to fear, however, Hyatt will help you. You will find the entertainment you desire right here in the hotel, indulge in a soothing visit to our spa or salon, unwind in our fitness center, sample exotic cuisine, or rack them up for a game of pool. In the event you find yourself with a free moment or two, we will help you make the most of it. This is the big capital ideal of the tourist, somebody that can be completely contained inside of their establishment. The destruction of your communities by overdevelopment for tourism is really the massive deployment of big capital strategies of containment of tourist desire. For the tourists, if they possibly can be, actually prefer to be free. They do not want to be trapped in a Disney or a Hyatt prison. They don't want ersatz attractions and thematization. They want to see the major attractions, to be sure, but they don't want to be rushed from one famous symbol to the next, experiencing nothing in between but the other tourists on the bus. They would like to explore open, symbolic, and natural settings where random encounters with landscapes famous and not so famous objects and events, provide them with opportunities to construct new interpretations of the world around them and their own lives and subjectivity. The contrast I'm making is here between there's a little girl, this is in the Netherlands, overlooking a model of everything in this community, as opposed to the cherry-picked famous, looming over these famous attractions with really nothing in between. It's the in-between that's so crucial to real tourist desire. The interest of sightseeing tourists can be aligned with the interest of local people in preserving their cultural integrity. For example, the strong component of the shared general will of both tourists and locals would be for the destination to be clean, well-kept, and presentable. When our cultural objects, our symbols, are not subject to ongoing admiration, engagement, dialogue, and negotiation, when no one is interested in them anymore, they die. And being human, nothing attracts our interest faster than someone else's interest. Clearly, there are two types of tourist motivation that need to be understood if we're ever to get a handle on how to enjoy our own communities and landscapes and be gracious hosts as well. The Spanish coast the Spanish coast has become habituated to hosting tourists who want to relax and blow off steam, whose palate might be insulted by strange food, who miss their fish and chips or McDonald's hamburgers, who sometimes believe that if they've escaped the normative constraints of home and work, they've escaped all normative constraint and can behave just as they please, who often treat local people as though their singular function is to be the tourist's obsequiously obliging host. If these tourists can afford it, they are quite happy to be trapped in the Hyatt or to have copies of the symbolic crammed together and served up to them at Disneyland, Las Vegas, or Italia in miniatura. This tourist motivation produces what I have called ego trippers. The primary strategy of highly commercialized tourism is to profit from placating the tourist ego. The second type of tourist motivation is attracted to us as cultural others, the way we do things, and that includes everything that we do. The way we look, the way we dress, talk, eat, work, play, have sex, sing, dance, build, worship, what gets our attention and makes us laugh, our historic accomplishments and failures, internal differences, our hierarchies, the ways we live and the ways we die. That's the modern tourist compact is a total engagement. The money generated by this motivation is spread much more evenly throughout the host destinations. Everywhere on Earth, these tourists are greeted with a magnificent and diverse array of human heritage and tradition, and also of human invention and hospitality at the atomic person-to-person level. These tourists do not come primarily to relax. They come to experience your traditions as different from their own, from which they might gain new perspectives on your world and on themselves. The second motivation characterizes ethical tourists who don't want gentrification and superficial experience and sameness and smoothed off copies of traditional forms any more than you do. Even if this is everything that big capital can give them, they want more authenticity, meaning an experience that has not been concocted by big capital and has become so valuable that capital is trying to invest in it. This desire for authenticity is something that the major money behind tourism is trying to figure out how to get a hold of that. A recent brochure arrived in my mailbox sent by a luxury travel company, and it promised authentic experience with insider access to every corner of the globe, authentic local interactions, in-depth itineraries, authentic small group travel, opportunities to meet local people. This was a luxury tour operator, assiduously avoids promising its guests anything that might remotely resemble a banal Disney or Vegas version of their destinations. They promised the real thing, behind-the-scenes access to every intimate detail in every corner of the globe. And they charge a premium of 4 to 5 times what they charge for visits to Vegas and Disney-style attractions. According to American Express, that tracks these things, this second type of tourist motivation actually generates more revenue while being much less annoying than the ego trippers. Ethical tourists try to blend in as much as possible. They try to learn some local language to the point of being able to check into a hotel or order a meal. And they take photographs, but they try to be discreet about it. Small to medium scale local businesses are a much better fit with this kind of tourist desire than a global corporation can ever be. This suggests that tourists and locals can be potential collaborators in the revitalization of both tourist origin and tourist destination communities. And this has already been put into practice under the heading of nanotourism. This is an interesting thing that has occurred recently in Japan. It's called contents tourism. They use the English word contento, contents tourism. What has happened is that the young people of Japan who love their manga and their anime cartoons found out that many of the anime artists and manga artists use real little communities, rural communities in Japan as for the backdrop of their drawings. They go out and draw actual small villages. And the kids that read these cartoons discovered this fact, and they began to go out into the Japanese countryside to find the places that the manga artists were drawing. And they found these very remote rural communities that nobody had visited for ages, and the people in the villages were fascinated by the young people coming and trying to respectfully embrace these settings. And they began to cooperate in the creation of festivals that were not traditional, Japanese traditional festivals, but festivals based on things that happened in the manga cartoons. And so there became, out of this grew this rural revitalization that happened without any commercial or political input. And now the government of Japan is embracing the movement as a rural development strategy. So this is an example of nanotourism in Japan. These kinds of projects that reimagine poor places and neglected rural places and industrial places, along with the nanotourism and other forms of ethical tourism, expose a contradiction that is one of the fundamental ironies that underlie all of our cultural arrangements. So I'm going to be a little theoretical for a few minutes, and bear with me. One of culture's dirty little secrets is that everything we regard as traditional and unchanging, every well-formed and settled symbolic structure, every detail of life that we take for granted, everything tourists come to see, started life as a radical new idea. Originally, and in the first place, everything we now call traditional was, by definition, an affront to the then established order of things. All of our current traditions originated as anti-traditional. So, how do you get from there to there? Everybody assumes that nothing changes, and let me suggest that the radical thing that happened the radical thing that happened is right there. The first woman that decided to put that little notch in that step made a very, very powerful gesture. After that happened, everything else just was a repeat. The question is, how do you get from one moment to the next under the banner of tradition? So here's a Cheyenne robe painting from the 19th century. And here is Native American art coercively constrained by a white art teacher on a reservation, telling them to paint in a traditional style. So this is one way that tradition can evolve. It can evolve in the direction of a kitschy simplification, and this is the way that it does evolve under the kind of simplification that is, we find it everywhere under. Oh, I'm aiming at. All right. That's good. Thank you. I'm a hex to these machines. So Native American art for the white market in traditional style is sometimes referred to as Bambi art or even Disney Indian art. And the question is this our only choice for moving tradition forward? This is a favorite robe drawing of mine. And the thing that I like most about it is that this scene is seen from absolutely every possible viewpoint. It's seen from above, it's seen from below, it's seen in planar perspective, it's seen from east, west, north, and south. It's very distinctly different from these white market Indian paintings that are set up just like, a classical stage single point perspective. So the question that I would like to ask is it possible to find objects and events that are neither monuments and memorials to our dying symbolic or Disney versions of these places? Is it possible? How can we discover the moment at which tradition actually takes its next step instead of devolving into a pure form? And what I want to draw attention to is that every symbolic object contains a dialectical tension between the form that is carried forward and the kernel of creativity that gave rise to the form in the first place. And tourism, as it's developed by big capital, acknowledges only the dead forms of tradition. Ethical tourism and tourism development identifies with the kernel of creativity rather than just the form. So this is a contemporary Indian artist, George Longfish, who has basically said that, okay, I accept what the tourist version of Indian art did. They put the little clouds across the top. They made a realistic depiction of an animal. I can do that with a collage and just take a decal for a hunter's truck and put the fish in there and put this very colorful humanoid form there and deal with the actual tradition, the kernel of creativity in the original tradition, as well as the deformation of it by the white market, and also play with the perspective, uncenter the perspective, like that Mandan robe. In the course of going over his work with George, he said to me wonderfully, tradition does not take its own next step. So the question is, how do we get into that moment where you can make it happen? This is a popular brand of butter in the United States. It's a little butter package which exploits this Indian maiden. I took her back and tried to provide warning about the enormous spiritual power of Indian women to anyone who wants to appropriate our symbolism and imagery. So Longfish is very consciously moving his tradition forward, not just the form. So what I'm trying to get us to go to here is this moment right here where art and tourism and the community development or community activism can all converge and make a break in the path so that it doesn't have to devolve into an industrial scale type of tourism. So, so here's the way it often looks when it's done badly. This bank building is sitting on top of a block that used to be occupied by Asian Americans, Chinese and Japanese Americans, and they were living in houses, perfectly normal-looking California houses. There were no signifiers of Asianness except their kitchen gardens, which were quite distinctive. So the bulldozers came, pushed them out, and they built a bank. And they decided, of course, they had to put some little symbolic reminders of the fact that that used to be an Asian neighborhood. So the first symbol of Asianness appears at the moment when the Asians are driven out of that neighborhood. And it's to me, it's a signifier of guilt, hopefully, but it's not the, and here's more of this stuff where there's an effort to engage tradition. This is supposedly a fishing boat's wheel. And from this point on, I'm just going to be taking you around the San Francisco Bay Area and touring it, not in the way that the Gray Line tours it, but dealing with the city of the future, what's emerging as the next set of attractions. So this is the old style. This is the old style. I'm sure that it's quite recognizable to the people from this area. Here's more on fishermen's work. I like this because there's an actual Chinese woman, fisherwoman, trying to move upstream in the group of tourists. They're all ignoring her except for this one guy over here. He actually seems to be a little bit interested in her. But there's authenticity there for the taking, but nobody's actually engaging it. So now that there's an aggressive urban redevelopment strategy that designates part of the city to be repurposed for tourism. And the idea of the city as theme park was originally critically developed by my friend Michael Sorkin. But now it's, and he was opposed to it, but now it's fully embraced by developers. The Bible for what I'm considering to be the unethical type of development is called The Tourist City. If you want to read it, it's by Dennis Judd and Susan Feinstein. And it's proffered as a handbook for, this is in their introduction, a handbook for capitalists within the tourist industry who are the primary creators and reproducers of tourist attractions. And their main concept is the tourist bubble, a place where you can contain the tourist. And they offer a checklist for mayors, typically an atrium hotel, a festival mall, a domed stadium, a convention center, a restored historical neighborhood, an aquarium, new office towers, and a redeveloped waterfront. Don't buy it, okay? It's totally unnecessary. So here is a part of a landscape show. A Museum of Modern Art in San Francisco commissioned, I believe, 8 temporary installations. This was the Hargreaves Associate. These are the piers that hold up the freeways in and around San Francisco. They clad them in aluminum. It's not really clad in aluminum, it's done with paint, but in any event, what they did was that they wrote the names of things in the Indian language of the people who once lived where these freeways are now. And then on the other side of the pillars, they wrote the translation so that you could actually travel around underneath the freeway and mingle with the language of the Indians who were once there, who, have been and are no longer, reminding them of the pillars of our civilization. So monumental bronzes are an important part of the tourist landscape everywhere. But the artist Terry Allen has given San Francisco this monumental bronze businessman called Shaking Man. It refers to the earthquakes that we have and also to the shaky foundations of the business world. He has, you see, many hands, and he's quite popular, especially with children who like to go up and shake his hand. The detail from Shaking Man. And you can actually get big capital to commission some of these alternate attractions. This is actually not in San Francisco, it's LA, but it's one of my favorite Terry Allen pieces, Corporate Head. It's an executive of the bank with his head stuck in the wall of the bank. And these are in the Denver airport. There's the gargoyles of the lost luggage in the Denver airport. All of these actually carrying traditions forward, but in ways that will be a happier future. So Terry Allen, a great musician as well as sculptor. So San Francisco has a very powerful muralist tradition. These are in Coit Tower. They were put up by the Works Project Administration in the Depression. The government hired artists to make these murals. This is the newsroom in Coit Tower. All the economic headlines in the newspapers are terrible. The market's crashing. Nobody has any money. And so this guy's reaching for a copy of Das Kapital. A very nice set of murals there. But now we continue. So these are the murals today in and around San Francisco. These are not on the regular tour bus trips. This is Balmy Alley. And here's an early Rigo. Rigo is one of the more famous muralists in the city now, when he was still an art student painting. This is an officially approved Rigo street sign. So graffiti artists, muralists, taggers, mainly from the Mission District, representing every culture, are transforming the face of San Francisco. And here's a Rigo officially permitted street sign. I have to say that this is becoming a really a powerful component of the visual part of the city. Tagger etiquette says that you can't write over another's work except to improve upon it. If you're not improving on it, you're not supposed to touch it. So here's an example of working over. The political critique is a very important part of these new works. It often references the traditional motifs. It combines traditions. One that would fit well right here. And some portraits are celebratory proclamations, such as this one of the Nobel Peace Prize winner, Rigoberta Menchú, on the Women's Building in the Mission District. I like this very much. Zarathustra walked her daughter to school every day on the same route, and one day she went and painted one square of the sidewalk with the portrait of her walking her daughter, so that every day they could see themselves passing. Very small piece. This is Ruby Nettie. Ruby Nettie's father is a very famous artist, and she was trying to, break free of her father and establish herself in her own right. So she began to paint these beautiful horses all over San Francisco. And someone did a survey of the recognizability of trademarks and brands in San Francisco at the time that she was doing this work in the 1990s. And her work came out on top above Coca-Cola and everybody else, as the people knew exactly what was going on. So she painted the horses everywhere. And they were supposed to mean reminisce. When you saw a horse, you were supposed to think reminisce. And that was the connection that the people got right in the commercial survey of the brands. Can you connect this image with a thought? And she so successfully covered the city that she became the most famous brand. So Jesus Campuzano lost his daughter, Liliane. She passed away when she was 8 years old, and he painted this memorial for her on the side of his apartment building. And then the apartment building changed hands, and the new owners painted it out. So this is the permanence of these interventions is by no means assured but in the end, they actually, there was so much protest over the loss of this mural that the new owners did compensate Campusano for having painted it out. So here's some works by Victor Mario Zavalla. Zavalla is a papel picado artist, a Mexican Indian papel picado artist. This is some of his work for the Day of the Dead. He was approached as, can't we have something more permanent? And so Victor proposed to render papel picado designs in steel, which is a wonderful move from the standpoint of tradition's next step, to take the most fragile art form and to transform it into one of the most permanent art forms. So he reconfigured the 16th and Mission Street rapid transit station with these papel picado pieces, but in chrome steel. And these are some of the gates around the 16th and Mission. Definitely tradition's next step, tourism's next step. This is the Mexican Heritage Cultural Center in San Jose. San Francisco artist Anne Chamberlain received the commission to do a series of altars and seats. And she visited they were afraid, at the cultural center, they were afraid that the people living in the neighborhood, who were mainly poor Mexican families, would see this cultural center as being so large and imposing and so fancy that they would be afraid to visit it. And so what Anne did was she asked them to give her permission to make their family albums into these photo tiles and put them up in the altars. So now all of the people in the neighborhood had an investment in terms of their family photographs in the altars. And indeed, at any point, you can go there and find them bringing their family and friends to look at the images in these altars. She also workshopped them into creating these the tiles surrounding them. The people in the neighborhood actually made those tiles under Anne's direction. So she was able to create these rather beautiful altars and seats involving the local people so much that they are completely invested in the place. Victor made the papel picado steel gates for the same institution. I like the fact that these gates were cut with a water knife, so that one of the hardest materials is cut with water. So there's this terrible garage in Sacramento, and it had these semicircular windows with bars on them. It looked like a jail, and nobody liked it. It was aesthetically awful. And then they were going to just replace them with something commercially made, but they discovered when they made the original garage that every one of these openings was a different size. The original contractor hadn't bothered to size them correctly. So they said, well, we have to get an artist to do the window treatment. So they got Victor to make these riffs on the Aztec calendar to put into these semicircular openings. And this is considered to be one of Sacramento's, new attractions. And Victor did the entire light rail system for the city of Phoenix in Arizona, the pavements, the walls, the gates. Toltec-Cayotl, this is Victor talking, from which the Toltec people also derive their name, informs my work. In brief, it is a philosophical idea that art, science, citizenship, and humor are, or should be, interconnected, and we must strive to forge unbreakable bonds between them in everything we do. And I would only add tourism. So. This is, I dedicated my book on the ethics of sightseeing to Anne Chamberlain, one of our dearest friends who passed away. I won't read the whole dedication, but I will say that what the important part was that she refused to accept notions of life or art as formulaic, repetitious accumulation or some kind of predictable progression. It is life's importance and meaning which lies just beyond our grasp that pulled her into the array of beautiful projects she made for all of us. So this is a garden that she made in the Cancer Treatment Center where she received her treatment. It was just just a piece of dirt. And she said she couldn't tolerate walking past it every day to go into the center, and asked their permission to make a garden there, which she did. And then she got the other cancer patients to make these tiles. She directed, they did the work, she directed their work. The women were insistent that she take a strong hand in the quality of the tiles. These are large pieces. Each tile is like that big. They wrote fragments of their stories. They pressed the healing plants into the tile and made this wall that used to be it used to just have tattered posters from drug companies on the wall. Now it's about 100 about 50 meters long wall and a memorial. These women are all gone, but their families can come back and see the work that they left. So, and Juliet and I made a tribute to Anne in a Day of the Dead show. She did not like to be photographed herself. But Juliet put her into the women working on the project. So the San Francisco is famous for what is Victorian houses called painted ladies. And this tradition goes back to the late 19th century, but it also goes on. This woman, Julie Murray, said that she lived in a terrible, terrible neighborhood. And she said she couldn't stand coming home every day in the poverty that she saw. So she wanted to create some kind of buffer against it. And she said, I wanted my mural to be as incongruous in its subject matter as it was un-Baroque in its rendering, a portal from one world to another. And this is the Poem House in another working class neighborhood. There's very few working class neighborhoods left in San Francisco, but a couple. And this is a It's a new painted lady, and it has this poem written in cursive all the way around the house. I won't read this to you, but this is what is written on the house. It's a celebration of the new diversity of San Francisco. So I can leave you there with this tour. And actually, I think I will. I have some examples I'll share with students or others that are interested informally of community redevelopment efforts, grassroots efforts made by artists in Philadelphia and Houston that are instructive of this particular new way of looking at both tourism and art and the community. But I think that's enough for now. Thank you very much.
Funciona, ¿no? Bueno, buenos días todavía. Vamos a pasar a la mesa de debate. Como vamos con un cierto retraso, vamos a hacer un poco la mesa de debate un poquito más breve y, evidentemente, también priorizando vuestra participación, ¿no? Entonces, bueno, primero de todo, felicitar a MacCannell por la magnífica exposición de su conferencia. Yo creo que ha sido muy ilustrativa y magnífica, ¿no? Para ser un poco breve, si queréis, podemos arrancar la mesa de debate exponiendo alguna cuestión. Yo había pensado algunas preguntas para los intervenientes. En principio, la conferencia de Dean MacCannell supone digamos, un retorno a la cultura popular, a la cultura del lugar, una manera de avanzar, ¿no? De encontrar en esa creatividad innata, ¿no?, que existe en el territorio, la esencia propia, ¿no?, para poder buscar un horizonte más innovador, ¿no?, que no sea el fetichismo o la típica imagen, ¿no?, estereotipada, ¿no?, que es la que vende un poco el turismo poco creativo, el turismo más comercial, ¿no?, por utilizar esta palabra, ¿no? En ese sentido, creemos, sobre todo en este escenario de Torremolinos, que es un escenario muy definido, como bien lo han dicho esta mañana en la presentación las autoridades locales, es un turismo que quiere cambiar, un turismo que está agotado. Estamos encontrando también, porque no deja de ser, digamos, la incorporación de la creatividad artística, ¿no?, en la posibilidad de renovar o cambiar, ¿no?, el modelo de la Costa del Sol. Estamos encontrando en Estepona aquí también experiencias parecidas de artistas que están haciendo murales y que, por tanto, están aportando una nueva visión más creadora que, curiosamente, genera nuevos recorridos turísticos, ¿no? Por tanto, un poco la pregunta que planteamos, ¿es fundamental la incorporación del arte como una línea de renovación de destinos turísticos o no? Digamos un poco conectando, ¿no?, con tu presentación, ¿no? ¿Cómo lo ves, Salvador?
Sí. Depende de la perspectiva. Yo aquí casi iría a esta imagen que ha puesto Dean de esta pieza de caza, diríamos, si no recuerdo mal, Cheyenne, donde se podía ver esta dinámica desde diferentes puntos de vista, ¿no? La pregunta muy concreta es, si la he entendido bien, es si el arte es una vía de renovación. Yo creo que lo que hemos visto y lo que nos ha querido explicar Dean MacCannell, a pesar que él lo puede interpretar mejor que nadie, es precisamente que el arte está más allá de un objeto o de una estrategia de renovación, de una renovación turística. Más allá, o si queréis, más acá. Es decir, está el arte, está la creatividad, está el desarrollo que puede significar esto a nivel personal, a nivel social, a nivel del vecindario, a nivel de la ciudad. Y esto, en todo caso, es algo que puede ser, en ocasiones, digamos, es utilizado o es tácticamente integrado dentro de lo que sería una dinámica turística. Pero y puede estar esta estrategia. Lo que pienso que es interesante y esto viene dado por el hecho que el turismo, diríamos, voy a decirlo así, puede con todo. Es decir, cualquier cosa que existe, si alcanza un nivel de significado para un público potencial, esta cosa pasa a ser integrada en el sistema turístico. Pero, más allá que el arte pueda ser algo, diríamos, útil desde el punto de vista de la renovación, es algo que es previo a esta renovación, y en todo caso lo que hará falta ver es cómo se puede, si es que se entra en esta dinámica, cómo se puede vincular precisamente el arte a estos procesos de renovación sin precisamente adulterar aquello que pretende el arte, que es simplemente una expresión de creatividad por parte de unos individuos que están en un lugar concreto.
Vale. Evidentemente también la incorporación, la renovación necesita un nuevo turista, ¿no? Es decir, tiene que haber una formación o una persona que sea capaz de encontrar, digamos, esas nuevas tipologías de context tourism, ¿no? O un poco lo que nos has enseñado, ¿no? Ahora en la presentación. Por tanto, entendemos que esta posibilidad del nuevo paso del turista tiene capacidad de convertirse en un mass media, o es un elemento que es más específico a un turista que esté más formado para poder entenderlo, para poder integrarse más en el entendimiento de la comunidad local. ¿Dean?
Thank you for the very good questions. I don't believe that an appreciation for the kinds of works that I was showing is at all restricted to those with a higher education. I think that Anne Chamberlain's intervention at the community center makes that certain that the people in the neighborhood can become tourists in their own neighborhood. They don't need a high education. All they need is something that draws them there. And I would say that most of what tourists go to see in the traditional 7 capitals in 5 days type of tourism was created in the first place by artists and architects and what have you, so that the status of those things is no different from the status of the things that I was showing, except they're older and more established and easier to package within a commercial framework. Yes, you would have to engage a more imaginative curatorial attitude towards your region in order to make this kind of tourism, rise up beyond a lecture by MacCannell, but I don't think that that's a particularly daunting task. And the reason that I say that is because almost every tourist that you talk to wants to be able to say, I saw something that the tourists don't see. That's one of the most fundamental desires on the part of tourists is, I got off the beaten path. I saw this incredible mural in the Mission District. I didn't just see Coit Tower. And given that that is so basic in tourist motivation and desire, I don't think it's a very big leap to be able to engage these artists. And I have to say that that the public artists of California in general, not just San Francisco, the public artists like Zavalla, like Chamberlain, do not feel that they are compromising their creativity by creating these things that I showed you. They will tell you they're giving it all they've got. They're not pandering to a public that has limited capacity to engage their work. They are showing them everything they can. And they are confident that their audience will respond. So I don't think that that's an issue either. I think what I'm showing you is the tourism of the future. It's just a matter of engaging it more quickly than it can be engaged or has been engaged by commercialized tourist businesses.
Bueno, simplemente, mientras estaba ahora hablando, recordaba, a lo mejor entre la audiencia es conocido, ¿no? La dinámica que en estos momentos ocurre, por ejemplo, en una ciudad como La Habana, en Cuba, donde está el icono, ¿no? Que es la Habana Vieja, que decíamos, y está estos nuevos desarrollos fuera de lo que es Habana Vieja, ya sea en Vedado, pero sobre todo en Centro Habana, que sería seguramente el entorno más urbanísticamente, arquitectónicamente, socialmente, diríamos, depauperado de la ciudad, donde precisamente lo que hay es las iniciativas que existen están directamente vinculadas a pequeños elementos relacionados con el arte, la creatividad de estos entornos vinculados con una idea determinada de expresar vamos a decirlo así, la cubanidad, si se puede decir de esta manera, ¿no? Y estos entornos que han nacido directamente a partir, en el contexto político cubano, a partir de la posibilidad de desarrollar unas determinadas iniciativas por parte de artistas que, por otra parte, tienen una dimensión global, resulta que están generando estos off the beaten track experiences, digamos, que están poniendo cada vez más en referencia La Habana no solamente como este espacio, diríamos, desde el punto de vista, diríamos, de visita turística, lo que sería el patrimonio de la humanidad antiguo, sino estos nuevos patrimonios que vienen de la creatividad y que curiosamente, en estos momentos se están integrando, y de hecho uno de los debates interesantes es en la ciudad, por parte de estos propios artistas, es tenemos capacidad, seremos capaces, nos interesa, podemos, es decir, este debate, vincularnos a una cosa que puede parecer muy alejada de lo que estoy diciendo, de la creatividad más pura, en el sentido de que surge del vecindario, podemos integrarnos, somos capaces de tener alguna relación con la emergente dinámica de cruceros turísticos que aparecen en la ciudad de La Habana. Entonces ahí entramos en una paradoja, en una tensión, en una contradicción que tiene que ver mucho con lo que en estos momentos estaba comentando MacCannell y que no está resuelta. Es decir, es una cuestión que no está resuelta, pero que de hecho forma parte de esta dimensión dinámica del destino turístico y de la actividad turística y de diríamos, y de algo que a veces nos cuesta entender, que es que a veces estas dinámicas o esta dimensión dinámica es muy acelerada, es decir, que las cosas suceden en muy poco tiempo y en periodos muy cortos. Resulta que pasamos de una situación como la que se está hablando ahora mismo de unos artistas, de unos lugares con una determinada creatividad, a su integración comercial, en algunos casos, y en otros no. Esto también es interesante ver, porque no todos los lugares que tienen potencial turístico acaban siendo parte de los circuitos turísticos.
Vale, bueno, no sé si alguien del público quiere hacer alguna pregunta. Hay otra, ¿no? Lo que sí, perdonad, vamos con un retraso importante, entonces vamos a intentar ser breve porque MacCannell estará también para la hora del café, ¿no? Y también podrá atender. ¿Vale?
Sí, muy rápido, buenos días. Bueno, felicitar a Dean por la conferencia. Me ha parecido muy interesante y creo que es fundamental esta idea de recuperar la resignificación de la ciudad desde el arte. Es decir, el turismo sería una consecuencia de esta resignificación. Es decir, estamos apelando por un nuevo simbolismo, por cierto, heredero de las teorías de Venturi, claramente. Es decir, el tema me ha parecido interesante, lo de un árbol, ¿no? Es decir, soy un monumento, soy un árbol, un cartel que reivindique, que genere un deseo de atracción. Es decir, estamos hablando de manejar símbolos para generar una nueva ética. Es decir, estamos hablando de generar a través de una nueva estética que viene del pop y viene del arte conceptual y del arte urbano, generar una nueva ética turística que huya de lo ergomimético, de lo egomimético que decía. Es decir, buscar esto. Me recuerda que, por ejemplo, en Torremolinos en los años 90, a través del plan Futures, se hizo una especie de propuesta a todos los arquitectos de redibujar todas las medianeras de esta ciudad. Al final creo que se quedó como un agua de borrajas, no se llegó a terminar. Es decir, que estas políticas de artistificar la ciudad pueden ser, creo que es una nueva alternativa al turismo, digamos, oficial, desprovisto de ese simbolismo identitario necesario. Me parece que está muy bien.
Vale, muchas gracias. Si queréis, vemos la segunda y contestamos en global, ¿vale?
Bueno, yo quería hacer siguiendo un poco casi lo que acaba de hablar Javier. De hecho, yo estuve en aquello de las pintadoras de arena, me acuerdo del plan turístico de Torremolinos. Pero aquí hay una contradicción de fondo. Vamos a ver. Hay una frase antigua de un escritor español que le llamaba a los turistas los TNT, los turistas no turistas. O sea, los turistas que ven algo que no han visto los otros turistas y por eso están contentos. En el fondo, el debate de fondo es: ¿hacemos esto atractivo a través del arte, una zona más paupérrima? Yo me acuerdo, por ejemplo, el caso de la Navarra es muy claro y ya lo he contado solo. El caso de Sao Paulo, por ejemplo. Sao Paulo tiene una especie de grafitis objetivamente feos, para entendernos, pero la gente de Sao Paulo está muy encantada con grafitis que son grafitis digamos espontáneos, no tiene nombre de artista, no es el artista famoso de Bristol o los artistas
Fuster en La Habana, por ejemplo.
Bueno, por ejemplo. Entonces, a ver, al final las autoridades públicas, el alcalde de Torremolinos o aquel entonces, cuando el otro alcalde de Torremolinos que quería precisamente pintar las medianeras, tú lo que haces es para atraer más turistas. Entonces, ¿dónde está ahí el turismo de masas que hablaba, o el turismo clásico, el de que descansa, y el turismo que quiere experiencias? Eso es una experiencia, y en la ciudad te da experiencia a través del arte, pero siempre y cuando no se masifique. Entonces estamos siempre en la permanente contradicción. Estamos el turista y el turista no turista, el turista que no quiere ver otros turistas cerca de él. Pero claro, en el fondo el negocio, con los pequeños negocios, necesita también que haya cierto nivel de demanda para que vayan a ese barrio. Algunos fracasan, otros no. Y otros se convierten en barrios turísticos como el este de Londres, con actividades muy atomizadas. Entonces, esa contradicción la vamos a tener siempre en el mundo del turismo. Yo quería saber un poco dónde está, porque se hace atractivo, but at the end of the day, people want to have visitors around there.
Vale.
¿Okay?
Vale, perfecto. Venga, gracias. Pasamos a... ¿Quieres comentar algo?
It's true that people want to have visitors in their neighborhood, but they don't want to have too many. And they also want them to be behaving properly, and they also want them to be spending money. And the model that I'm in effect proposing does lead in a positive direction against all of those constraints that the people might have. There will be fewer of them, that's true. But that's also very much in your interest if the fewer of them spend much more money than the many that come. Or the big profits are, you have to ask the question, who's making the most money off of this? Is it the airlines that are bringing them in? Is it the cheap hotels that are hosting them? Or is it the local entrepreneurs, the small shop owners in the neighborhoods? And the kind of tourism that I've been advocating, in effect here, definitely favors the small shop owners in the neighborhood. The American Express studies say that the non-guided tourists, the people who actually come on their own, spend more than twice as much money every day than the people who are brought in by the tour companies. So if you can just shift it over to bring more of the non-guided tourists in, the ones that are just going around trying to discover who you are and how are things done around here, you will make more profit from fewer tourists, and the contradiction tends to diminish.
Sí, bueno, de hecho, hay una aparente contradicción en todo esto. Hay una aparente contradicción entre generar atractividad y ser atractivo, y la consecuencia que tiene ser atractivo, y los límites que queremos poner a la atracción real que se genera a partir de la atractividad, ¿no? Y esto desde el punto de vista del lugar. Y después está la otra contradicción más aparente también, que es desde el punto de vista del propio turista, que es lo que decías tú, ¿no? Yo aquí me gusta evocar, o me gustaría evocar la obra de otro, para responder a esta, sobre todo ahora a la segunda, la contradicción entre los turistas que quieren unas cosas y los que quieren otras, ¿no? A otro sociólogo, en este caso, me permitirá Dean que hable de otro sociólogo que no sea él durante esta sesión, que es Jean-Didier Urbain, y su, para mí, también inspiradora obra, El idiota que viaja, es la traducción en español de esta pieza que está en francesa, El idiota que viaja, ¿no? Donde lo que hace precisamente es un esfuerzo por entender que esta aparente dicotomía entre el turista que es turista y el turista que no quiere ser turista, de hecho no es una dicotomía, sino que es una gradación, es una cosa diferente de algo que es la voluntad de tener una experiencia en relación a algún elemento que puede ser icónico, que puede ser atractivo, etcétera, y que esa experiencia que esa experiencia será diferente para cada uno de los que lo tienen. Con lo cual, con esto quiero decir que en esta, y esto me traslado al otro lado de la ecuación, diríamos, al lado de cómo construimos atractividad y queremos limitar la atracción, que sería este un poco el tema. Esto tiene que ver precisamente con esta idea de de ver que en todo este proceso estamos ante algo muy social, donde lo importante no es lo que quieren los turistas o lo importante no es tan solo lo que quiere el destino, sino lo importante es cómo nos gobernamos colectivamente, cómo co-creamos colectivamente los que estamos generando atracción y los que vienen atraídos por esta atracción, cómo estamos co-creando colectivamente y gobernando en términos de gobernanza colectivamente hasta dónde queremos llegar. Porque también por parte de los turistas hay esta limitación, diríamos, esta voluntad de limitación, como la hay por parte de los propios generadores de esa atracción. Y esto es algo que tiene, yo diría, límites muy borrosos y que tiene mucho que ver con la experiencia del turista y con la experiencia de aquel que la ofrece. Pero bueno, esto es un ámbito para un congreso entero, o más.
Vale, muchas gracias. Creo que hay algunas preguntas todavía pendientes, pero es que de verdad, perdonad, vamos con un retraso muy grande. Retomamos un poco el debate en el Café Break, ¿vale? Entonces, bueno, comentaros que vamos a empezar, vamos a retrasar otros 20 minutos y empezaremos las sesiones a las 12 menos 20, ¿vale? Vámonos ahora al Café Break, agradecer por supuesto a Dean MacCannell, a Salvador Antón y al público las preguntas y continuamos en el Café Break, ¿vale? Muchas gracias.